And so let's try to list down, starting from the smallest perfect square. 0, given it's 0 squared, right? But we start from 1. 3 square 1, that means we multiply 1 by itself, right? So that's 1 times 1, which is equal to 1. How about 2 squared? That will be 2 times 2, and that gives us 4. 3 squared, 3 times 3, you have 9. 4 squared, it's 4 times 4, 16. I just try to write all those. 5 squared, 5 times 5, 25. Now let's go to 6 squared. 6 times 6, 36. 7 squared, 49. 8 squared, 8 times 8, 64. 9 squared, 9 times 9, you have 81. 10 squared, 10 times 10, 100. All right, let's listen up to 15 until we consume all the space we have here. All right, so we have 11 squared, 121. How about 12 squared? 12 times 12, you have 144. 13 squared, you have 169. How about 40? 196. And we have 225. Now, these are very helpful in factoring the difference of squares. So we need to know at least the first 15, or better yet, the first 20 if you know, if you can. After the perfect squares from 120. You forget, it's listed in the whiteboard. So for instance, if you get the square root of 9, what's the square root of 9? It's 3 squared. The square root of 16, that's 4. Square root of 100, that's 10. Square root of 81, 9. All right, so at least you have a list of those perfect squares, because now we begin factoring the difference of squares. Any polynomial in the form a squared minus b squared is a difference of squares. And the factor here is in the form a plus b times a minus b. So these are the two factors of a squared minus b squared. You have a plus b and a minus b. All right, we've tried to multiply some polynomials before in this form, a plus b times a minus b. And we found out that the result is a squared minus b squared. And so how's that? In order to get this two factors, a plus b and a minus b, simply get the square root of a squared. What's the square root of a squared? It's going to be a. Square root of b squared, it's going to be b. And so we have this factor is a plus b, one of the factor, and the other one is a minus b. Let's try some of the examples in your book, page 319. So let's start from 28. 4x squared minus z squared. We can rewrite this into squares. Perfect square, right? Z squared, perfect squares. How do you know it's a perfect square? If the exponent is divisible by 2, it's a perfect square, right? But how about 4? Is it a perfect square? Yes, because 4 is the same as 2 squared. All right, so we can rewrite this as 2 squared z squared minus, and now we can write the factors as what? The square root of 2 squared z squared is 2z. How do we do that? We simply divide 2 by 2, right? So 2 divided by 2 is 1. So that will be 2 raised to 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so it would be 0 is to 1, but never mind. 1. All right. I wrote something wrong here. This should be x. All right. I'm sorry about that. That should be x. And so that will be 2x minus square root of z squared. Gonna be z. So one of the factors is 2x plus z. And the other one is simply the minus, right? It's 2x minus z. All right. How about 430? You have 49 u squared minus 64 v squared. Let's rewrite 49 first and 64. 49 is the same as 7 squared, right? And 64 is the same as 8 squared. So we have 7 squared u squared minus 8 squared v squared. And we can write the factors. What are the two factors? The two factors are, it's gonna be the square root of the two terms. Square root of 7 u squared. And 7 squared u squared is 7 u. And the square root of 8 squared v squared, that's gonna be 8 v. So it's 7u plus 8v. The other one is 7u minus 8v. You have 36a squared minus 121b squared. Let's just find the square root of both terms in order to find the factors quickly. Let's consider 36. What's the square root of 36? 6. Square root of a squared? A. Square root of 121? 11. Square root of b squared? B. So we have 6a plus 11b. The other one is 6a minus 11b, and that save us with one. Will save us from doing the other step. 6a plus 11b and 6a minus 11b are the factors of 32. Let's have 34. 121a squared minus 144b squared. Use your list of perfect squares if you have. And so let's do that now. What's the square root of 121? A squared. 121 is 11a squared is a, and 144 12b squared b, so 11a plus 12b. The other one is 11a minus 12b.